Do we have quorum?
Good morning,
I know.
Chantel. Yes.
Good morning.
Yes,
Gallagher couldn't be with us this morning.
I couldn't hear you, Chantel.
I said I know Gallagher couldn't be with us this morning.
Okay, yes, we have a quorum.
Okay. All right. Well, we are live and we have quite an agenda. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Council Clerk, will you please call the roll?
On the roll, Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher's absent today. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. We have a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilmember Baker is also in attendance.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown.
Actually, I think she froze up.
Yeah.
I think she.
We have public.
Yes, Ms. Brown, we did have individuals submit public comment. Mr. Joseph Guarino III, Mr. Marquez Brown, Mr. Will Spate, and Mr. Joseph Caschalk regarding ordinance number 2021-005, and those were distributed to the members of the committee before the meeting.
Sorry about this.
I think
right,
we
we're gonna-
may have lost.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you
can
now.
hear you.
Okay, my sincerest apologies. I know you said we had public comment and I dropped.
Yes, I did advise everyone of the public comment that was submitted.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 30th meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Miller.
All right, it's been seconded by Miller. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If there are none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, and it appears Councilwoman Conwell has joined the meeting for the record. If you'll read the first item, Madam Clerk. And if you're reading, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Resolution number 2021-0099, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Gary Hansen to serve on the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for the term April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2020.
All right, and you know what? I apologize. I got a little thrown off schedule here because I really understand that Mr. Mack has a commitment. So if we'll just hold that item, I believe if you'll jump to 5D so we can allow Mr. Mack to give his presentation. So Council Clerk, if you read item 5D, please.
Resolution number 2021-0102, confirming the county executive's appointment of Fernando Mack to serve on the Cuyahoga County Public Defender Commission for the terms May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2025.
All right, and then I'm going to turn it over to Director Pomerantz to give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a county executive's appointment. We're recommending Fernando Mack to serve on the Cuyahoga County Public Defender Commission for the term 5/1/2021 until 5/30/2025. And the powers and duties of the Cuyahoga County Public Defender Commission are established in the ORC 120.14. And those duties include recommending an annual operating budget of the Office of Public Defender, establishing operational standards of the office, and determining the qualifications and size of the supporting staff of the office to help provide essential legal representation to indigent persons in the county. With us today, besides Mr. Mack, we have the executive of the commission, Mark Budzar, as well. I saw public defender Cullen Sweeney has joined as well to help support with any questions. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to the councilwoman for considering Mr. Mack's appointment early on the agenda.
Understood. I understand he has to go to court. So before we give the floor to Mr. Mack, do any of the members of the committee have any questions for Director Pomerantz? Okay, there being none, Mr. Mack, if you will share with us a little bit about your background and why it is that you would like to serve on the commission.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. As a lawyer, I feel like I've grown up around the public defender's office. I've interacted with the county public defender's office in a variety of ways, as a prosecutor, as a magistrate, and as a defense lawyer. And I understand the importance of the office and the public defender through those interactions. As a prosecutor, I battled against some excellent lawyers who worked for the public defender's office, learned several lessons on occasion early on as a young prosecutor, taken to the shed, learned from that. I developed friendships throughout my interactions with those individuals who work for the public defender's office. They would share what they liked about the office and frankly, what they didn't like about the office. As a magistrate, I enjoyed watching public defenders go to battle for their clients as if they were privately retained, and seeing their clients satisfied and receiving a service that they know they couldn't otherwise afford. As a defense lawyer, I've worked in the trenches and went to battle with side by side with public defenders in very difficult cases. And I can tell you that, again, I utilized some of the resources that were made available to the public defender for my own clients, and certainly learned through that process what it meant to be a good lawyer. And I say all this to say that I understand the importance of the office, and whoever is running the office certainly matters. I watched Mr. Draper as a young prosecutor, and I witnessed each public defender after Mr. Draper leave their own mark on the office, all the way up to Mark Stanton. And so I've seen the different leadership styles. And again, I know from interacting with public defenders what they've enjoyed and what they haven't. And the guy who's in the office right now, he's a pretty talented lawyer. And I've utilized him as a resource on many occasions. So I hope that my experience can be an asset to the commission. I think it's an important job. I would like to be a part of that process in helping the Office of the Defender for Cuyahoga County. And I do want to be a part of the commission. I believe I can help in that process for selection and budgeting and whatever else is required of me. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. So I had to look at my mute button again and make sure that it wasn't on mute because I didn't hear any questions. I expect Mr. Boyle to have had the first question for me.
Well, he is certainly.
That's not how any of this works, the council members.
He's certainly open to have questions, but any questions from my colleagues? And my internet is a little glitchy, as you all might be able to tell. So there's I'm experiencing a delay, so I apologize.
No, it's okay.
All right. Well, I think largely in part, if I might speak so freely, I think your reputation precedes you. I think many of us may be familiar with you and your work. I guess the one thing that I would respectfully ask is that having had so much experience, what if any would be your first priority if you are appointed to this commission?
Well, honestly, I really didn't know much about the commission until I received the invitation. And I began to ask questions of Tom Shaughnessy and Jim, guys who I know that are on the commission to get a little bit more education. So I think I have to certainly learn a little bit more about what I'm becoming involved in, even though, again, I think the qualifications are there based on having practiced for almost 27 years now. But I think it's going to be an education for me, but making sure that I understand that office is intact and making a contribution as much as I can.
Thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity. If there are no additional questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Mack, then I will make the motion to move this to the full body of the council. And Director, do we need this under second reading? Yes, it did. Okay, under second reading suspension.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second, Sweeney.
Thank you, Councilman Sweeney. It's been moved in second. If there are no questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mack. We appreciate your willingness to serve. This will move to the full body of the council at our next council meeting. All right, Council Clerk, we will return to our original order. We reread item 5A. And Mr. Mack, at this time, you are free to stay, or if I understand you have another commitment. So we, again, thank you for your time. Council Clerk.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2021-0099, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Gary Hansen to serve on the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for the term April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2024.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to the director so she can give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of County Executive Budish, we are pleased to recommend Gary Hansen for a reappointment to the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for a 3-year term beginning 4/1/2021 and expiring 3/31/2024. The Cuyahoga Arts and Culture is authorized by Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 3381. It is the public funder for arts and culture events and has awarded over 1,200, maybe even more than that, grants to more than 300 organizations serving Cuyahoga County residents. The board consists of 5 members appointed by the county executive and are subject to council confirmation. And some of the qualifications include having a broad knowledge and experience in the arts or cultural heritage, and at least 2 members of this board shall be persons who devoted a major portion of their time to practicing, performing, or teaching any of the arts, or who are professional administrators in the fields of arts or cultural heritage, and shall be qualified electors in Cuyahoga County. With that, I'm pleased to let you know that Jill Paulson, the Executive Director of Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, is also joined to help support, as well as Mr. Gary Hansen. And since the date is beginning 4/1/2021, we would, if possible, consider second reading suspension.
Understood.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions for the director from my colleagues regarding this? Okay, all right. We're gonna invite Mr. Gary Hansen to unmute himself and to share with us a little bit about your background, why you'd like to continue to serve in this capacity.
Thank you, Chairperson Brown. First, let me just say how much I admire and appreciate what the council and staff have done through this crazy year in this Hollywood Squares style of meeting, which is challenging, I have to say. As some of you know, I spent my career as an arts administrator, most of it in Cleveland for the Cleveland Orchestra, subsequently the Cleveland Institute of Music. During that time, I served on many civic boards and arts boards. Since then, since serving on the CAC board for the last 3 years, excuse me, I have been pleased to support the work of CAC, in particular their support for organizations large and small across the county, for its work in producing and administering programs that would support individual artists. And certainly the broad work that CAC has done over many years in DEI across the county. Finally, I'll just say that in the last couple of years, I have devoted a good deal of attention to the formalization of the arts under a banner of an arts alliance that would bring together arts organizations, individual artists, and even commercial arts organizations in a way that could represent the county's arts and culture life, and that might eventually, I hope, result in even greater support for arts and culture across the county.
Well, thank you for your willingness to continue to serve, and thank you for the work that you've done. With that said, I'd like to open it up to my colleagues if you have any questions. Questions for Mr. Hansen? I see Councilman Miller has unmuted himself. Councilman Miller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to Mr. Hansen, I would like to thank you for the work that you've done on behalf of arts and culture and your willingness to continue to serve. And my question is that I understand that there is an effort underway to put an issue on the ballot that would broaden the revenue source for the arts and culture levy. And I was wondering if you could give me an update on what the status of that effort is.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. As I mentioned, I have been involved in the gestation of an Arts Alliance, and it is under an Arts Alliance that is still a nascent body, but it is under the leadership of that alliance of many organizations that this effort is taking shape. I will defer most of the question to Jill Paulson, the executive director, who has been in detailed discussion with all of the involved parties almost daily for several months.
Ms. Paulson?
Jill?
Sure. Thank you, Gary. And pleasure to see everyone again. Councilman Miller, I would say I appreciate the question. As Gary mentioned, we are working hand in hand with Arts Cleveland and what is known as the Arts and Culture Action Committee to begin planning. At this point, the language we're using is really it's fluid, which I know is not super helpful to say, but we are in close contact with folks down in Columbus, along with some other advocates to make sure we can hopefully over time expand tobacco products and ideally look for additional revenue to serve all the communities. So the it's fluid piece is maybe not like the ideal answer, but it's truly where we're at right now. You know, there's obviously some tension, and any movement in Columbus is often dictated by things outside of our control, but we're doing our best to really stay focused on that and make sure that what happens is the best as it can be for our community and for the residents who are served by the groups we fund.
And Madam Chair, if I may follow up on that.
Please.
My follow-up question to Ms. Paulson is whether you're expecting that we would see authorizing legislation as a separate bill in Columbus, or do you think it's more likely that it would be incorporated into the budget bill, which is currently being processed and expected to be completed by the end of June?
I think the best case scenario would be that it was attached to something else, either budget or omnibus. So at this point, kind of working hand in hand with folks to see what would be the best approach possible. But I know we've, hit and passed a few key deadlines. So now ideally, we are incorporated into another versus a standalone, which might be a little more difficult to manage.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair.
You're more than welcome. I'd like the record to reflect Councilman Jones as Council President Jones is in attendance for this meeting. Council President, do you have a question?
I did, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hansen, again, congratulations to arriving at this point in the process.
Thank you.
All right. One, I'll share with you over the years since the last time this body placed the arts and culture levy on the ballot, we advocated for this body, advocated for a diversity and inclusion initiative that has been moving forward over the years, an effort to provide dollars to minority participants, again, just to diversify the funding recipients. And it has been an effort that Jill certainly has worked on. The previous director, Karen Mills, I believe, Karen. And so my question to you is this something that you could be supportive of, again, on the board, just the continued effort to diversify, recognizing the importance of some of our major art contributors and even the smaller ones in the community, finding that balance of funding in a way that just benefits everyone?
Thank you for the question. The short answer is absolutely. In my 3 years on the CAC board, I have been fully supportive for the major strides that have been made in DEI with the support of CAC throughout the county. There is still much work to be done, And I look forward, if appointed, to continuing to lend my support, not just to grants to diverse organizations, but also to encouraging existing small and large organizations to further diversify their efforts in serving the broad population of Cuyahoga County.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council
No.
President. Any other questions?
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? All right, if there are no further questions, Mr. Hanson, we thank you for coming before this body today. I understand this needs to be moved to the full body of the council under second reading suspension, so I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Miller. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? All right, there being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then this will move to the full body of the council. Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for joining us today as well. You are free to go if you'd like to stay. You are welcome to stay with us. But we do appreciate you coming before the council committee to demonstrate your willingness to continue to serve in this capacity. With that, Council
Thank
Clerk,
you.
you're very welcome. Please read into the record item B.
Resolution number 2021-0100, confirming the county executive's reappointments of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation Board of Trustees for various terms.
All right, thank you very much. And again, although our agenda says appointment, these are reappointments. Is this a technical matter that we need to amend, Council Clerk? Or is it just something we need to, I see Mr. Boyle is.
I think you're okay to proceed.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, with that said, I will turn it over to Director Pomerantz so you can give us a little bit of background, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation, CCCIC, was developed in Ohio Revised Code Section 1724. And as you mentioned, these are all reappointments. The CCCIC was incorporated in 1982 for the sole purpose of advancing, encouraging, and promoting the industrial, economic, commercial, and civic development of Cuyahoga County. The corporation serves as the county's review agent for industrial revenue bond financing and economic development lending activity. Members of the board shall serve a 3-year term. The members that are here today, as well as Director Michael May from the Economic Development Department, and those include Jeff Bechtel for a 3-year term, 1/2/2020 to 1/1/2023. Michael Chambers, 3-year term, 10/16/2020 to 10/15/2023. Susan Infeld, 3-year term, 1/2/2021 to 1/1/2024. And Michelle Pomerantz, myself, 3-year term, 2/1/2021 to 1/31/2024. And again, as I mentioned, Mike May is here, as well as the other members seeking reappointment, and myself included.
Thank you, Director. And just for the record, the appointments are largely requirements of people in positions at the county. Can you speak to that?
There's no, I'll probably defer to Michael May in terms of whether you have to be on or out, or if the legislation even speaks to that. Michael?
Well, again, on or out, these are appointments that emanate from as Director Pomerantz indicated, a corporation, the Community Improvement Corporation, that flows from the Ohio Revised Code. And this corporation has been in place, as mentioned, from the mid-'80s. It was that this corporation, which is populated by a board of trustees. So there are 11 board members or board trustee positions that, again, come out of a set of bylaws that basically govern the corporation. So all 11 positions are volunteer board member positions that are appointed in 1-2 punch. County executive recommends, and then the council here approves legislatively. So this really goes back quite a ways, decades. And these board members, the bylaws have a rotating sort of um, these are 3-year terms that are staggered, so that they are in those positions. They can be reappointed by the county, or if not reappointed, new members can be placed in. So they're volunteer board member positions that occupy this board of trustees. If that explains things a little better. Madam Chair, I think she's frozen. Oh.
Okay, and I'm getting a little break. Yeah, thank you. I'm here. Okay, so my internet again is being a little bit sketchy this morning, but we'll start. If there are any questions from the committee for the directors, are there any?
Yes.
Okay, if there are none, then we will open the floor. Mr. Bechtel, if you will unmute yourself and share with us why you would like to continue to serve in this capacity.
Madam Chair, we did have some.
I believe there's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Councilwoman Conwell.
And me.
And Dale. In terms of through the chair to Director Pomerantz,
And then Miller.
Through the chair to Director Pomerantz, I've noticed that the 2 of them are behind in 2023, and 2 are in 2024. I've never seen us do legislation like this, like add them all in. Are we just behind on the 2023, and that's why we're including them?
Through the chair, yes, and yes, Councilwoman Conwell, we are behind on some of these. The CCCIC has had, we want to do it under the leadership of Jeff Bechtel, who's here. We held some to make sure that we had a team going forwards. There was a few that were a little late, partly due to COVID, partly due to wanting to make sure that we got the previous person added onto the board so that we had, which is something I think that the Chairwoman Chantel Brown alluded to, which is to have as many people outside the county as well as people involved in the banking industry serve in support of this committee. So we held on a few of them until now, and these terms are in fact a little late.
Okay, and there was stated that there's 11 on this total on this board.
Yes.
Okay,
so the councilwoman.
Okay, so all 4 of the Michael. So everyone besides Jeff is county.
Yes, correct. The Chambers, Infeld, and Pomerantz are county appointees. The makeup of the 11 person board is 5 county members, or county class as it's called in the bylaws, and then 6 private class members of the board that come from outside of the county apparatus.
Okay, I have one other question. So I will pass it over to Councilman Miller and until our chair can get back on.
So my question to Mr. May, am I correct that the primary purpose of the Community Improvement Board is to review the finances and the economics of various proposed economic development projects and to make recommendations regarding those to the Department of Development?
Yes, through the chair to the councilman. Essentially, you should view this board, its sole purpose at this point is to be a banking loan committee. To review, as brought forward by the Department of Development, economic development loan requests and project proposals that have them basically acting as a loan review underwriting committee on behalf of the legislative bodies of the county. So that would either mean the Board of Control for anything less than $500,000, and then anything more than $500,000 would, as you know, would be going to county council. So the CIC and its board of trustees on a monthly basis reviews loans that the Department of Development, through its internal programs, of which we have 7, basically utilizing the Economic Development Fund that's been around since 2011, the beginning of the new government, to utilize that capital to lend to these various business expansions, real estate projects, and the like. And they, again, perform the role of a banking underwriting committee, loan committee, as it were, to be able to recommend to the legislative body whether to go forward with this and approve the request or not.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman Conwell.
through the chair to Mr. May, does this group determine any or participate in any of the scoring of the contracts, anything like that?
It might be a little bit of a misnomer to say scoring. Essentially, again, as a true banking underwriting group, what they work with, the Department of Development is, as you know, Councilman Conwell, it has its own programs, its own specifications. There's a booklet that I could send to anybody that essentially describes what the ins and outs are and the requirements that would have to be met by anybody requesting a loan. So things like coverage ratios of cash flow and loan to value ratios, how much capital we will lend to a project vis-a-vis the number of jobs that they create. We have a formula actually of $35,000 to $50,000 of capital that we will lend per new full-time job created. So there's a whole raft of specifications that are required for a project to be able to apply and then go through the loan write-up stage. The loan write-up then being brought to the loan review committee for its review. So there isn't any scoring process per se. There's basically as in the private sector, a bank loan committee that looks to see that they have the project and the request has passed muster through the rules and regs of our programs, and then to add to that their understanding of and the nuances that may come with economic development type projects. One of the things to remember here is that we, as a lender, are not trying to make money. We are certainly trying to get paid back, and so underwriting is very important so that the loan will be covered, debt service will be paid back. We can revolve these dollars back in. But we also are very keen on creating jobs in some of our mixed use and place-based projects. We're trying to rebuild neighborhoods. And so we've got a number of things that sort of go beyond just the sort of, the typical kind of banking requirements or judgment of a project and a loan request. So that's how it works in broad brush.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. May, I didn't want to say the term scoring, but that's the term that a lot of individuals in administration use. I'm talking about scoring in terms of decision making. So when you have these several loan projects that are in front of you, how are you determining? So I said scoring. How are you determining which one you will go forward with and which one that you aren't, when you're presented with, more than one request at a certain.
Sorry to interrupt. Essentially, the sequence of events is basically that, again, our programs are known. They are actually communicated to businesses, to real estate development, and to potential partakers of our programs through partnerships that we have with Greater Cleveland Partnership, with Team NEO, with the cities themselves, and various other venues and portals to get out the idea that Cuyahoga County does do capital financing. I'll use the term gap financing, which is very critical to the way we operate, and that is that we don't do any primary financing for projects. We come in with that but for dollar set of dollars that come in later junior to sort of the primary financing to fill the gap that is being experienced by a business, say, trying to expand. They can't quite get all of the capital that they need from the private sector. So that's where we come in. And when they do come, we actually go through a process of, first and foremost, where we look and see if there's a fit with any of our programs. If there is not, we do our level best to try to work them toward other programs that might be able to help them. Some of the partnerships that we have, in fact, with ECDI, the Micro Enterprise Program, Growth Opportunity Partners, NDC, and the Grow Cuyahoga Fund. So many of those vehicles and those programs can be very helpful to projects and requests that will not fit with our 7 tools. If they do, we then provide the business or the project and the proposal with a letter of intent, which is sort of the early stage item that or vehicle that allows them to start to actually come in and formally apply for us. So we get through that dance and basically then accept a loan application. And then there is a very arduous loan underwriting process where they basically have to show 3 or 4 years of their past business history. We have to look at their financials. We have to look at what the company is about. Does it fit with our 5-year plan? A number of those things. And we also have to look at what they're talking about in the way of what is the project? Have they costed it out? Have they figured out where we can fill the gap? So all of that goes on via the application process. Once we've baked something that actually seems to really fit and that we are confident as staff in the department that the loan is a good one, is going to create jobs that are meaningful wage jobs and other criteria that we place on this, they then are ready to go before the loan underwriting process, whereby again that we'll be looking at pro formas, we'll look at profit and loss statements, projections by the company if they're expanding. What things look like in the way of income and expense all the way down, and again that's the sort of the whole sort of look-see at the company and the project to be able to tell whether this is a worthy project and basically meritorious of our programs. And that is when again our banking board members, as well as the other board members that bring various disciplines and skills to this. The county is providing us with Director Chambers on fiscal, and Susan Infeld brings a perspective on County Planning Commission, Director Pomerantz, the regional aspect of things. So all of that is sort of part of that review process. And then once the committee is or the board is satisfied that this is a loan that seems to be a good fit for our programs and it underwrites out, and that we feel it's going to be worthy of the loan and also pay us back, they then actually vote to recommend to either Board of Control on a smallish loan or to the County Council on the larger scale loans, recommend approval. Whereupon then it goes to you and gets first reading and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how it works in overall the whole scheme.
All right. Thank you, Director Pomerantz and Mr. May. I'll send you some additional questions, Mr. May, in the interest of time, because I have several follow-ups on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Director May. So are there any other questions for Mr. Bechtel? All right. Well, Mr. Bechtel, thank you for joining us. We have a number of other candidates to follow. You are welcome to stay. We're going to move on to the next candidate, which is going to be Mr. Michael Chambers. Mr. Michael Chambers, if you will unmute yourself and share with us a little bit of your background and why you'd like to continue to serve in this capacity.
Thank you, Mike Chambers again. As Mike May indicated, this is a very unique group I'm glad to be part of. Jeff is actually a very knowledgeable fella in the loans. And what I try to do is bring a county perspective to this process, along with Susan. I know Khalil's part of it and Michelle. But we have a great team of experts in this field. And my goal, once again, is to bring the county view into point. I've been your fiscal officer for the last 2 years. I have 32 years of government experience. And I'm a Cleveland, I live in Cleveland. I've lived in Cleveland all my life. And so from a personal point, I like to see these projects move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over and yes, it's time. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. I'll open it up to my colleagues if you have any questions for Mr. Chambers. I think I'm free to say, I know you pretty well, and after the overview that we got from the director, that your reputation and work speaks for you. And so we thank you for coming in and sharing your background and why you're willing to continue to serve in this capacity. And with that, I will open it up to Susan Enfeld. You have the floor. If you will unmute yourself and share with us why you would like to continue to serve in this capacity, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, and hello, esteemed council members. Thank you. As I will just follow up on what Mike Chambers just said, this is a great group to work with, and we really do critically look at the projects brought before us to make the best recommendations for the project to move forward. My background, besides my current employment at the County Planning Commission, is actually financial. Early in my career, I worked at what was then Kemper Financial Services, which is now part of Deutsche Bank, as part of a team that put together large bond packages for institutional investors. So whether it was a general obligation bond or industrial revenue bonds. And then I went from there to work at the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago for several years, moved here. I have a long municipal background in Cuyahoga County, having served as a councilwoman in University Heights. At the time, the University Square project, the first TIF project in Cuyahoga County, the second TIF in Ohio, was formed in the years 2000 and 2001. 10 years later, as mayor, I had to look at that project not actually functioning too well. I now work at the County Planning Commission and have a much broader perspective in terms of land use and interventions in municipalities, and try to bring all of my background and experience to the projects that we look at on behalf of this CCCIC. And I recently also got certification in economic development finance. So I bring that also to the committee. So my desire is to.
All right. Thank you very much. And so are there any questions from my colleagues?
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you much, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to say hi to the mayor. I haven't seen you in a while. You have a longstanding track record of great public service. Just keep up the great work, and I know we're in good hands. Thank you for letting me have a point of personal privilege when I didn't ask for one, Madam Chairwoman.
Councilman Conwell, I see you're unmuted. Did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
No, thank you. I thought I had muted. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So if there are no questions, no further questions, thank you. Thank you, Susan. We appreciate your willingness to continue to serve in this capacity. And last but certainly not least, Director Pomerantz, you have the floor. If you'll share with us why you'd like to continue to serve in this capacity, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that my role as the Regional Collaboration Director helps me to connect with the municipalities from which these loans are coming from. It also helps me look to see whether it's the Centennial Project or the Immigrant Sons Brewery. I think it helps me be another set of eyes to make sure that the economic development is being advanced in other parts of the community besides downtown, but also done in a way that includes our mayors, like in the Gojo Real Estate for Maple Heights and others. So I really hope that you will consider me for reappointment, and it's a great team to work with, and I've learned a lot. And under the leadership of Michael May, as well as Sean Davis from GCP, we really do try to help plan on ways to economically develop municipalities, but as the county as a whole.
Well, thank you for your willingness to continue to serve. I see Councilman Sweeney has a question.
I actually have a question, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you very much. Director, how are you today?
I am good, thank you.
Just what's the time commitment? I know everybody's very busy. How much does this crunch your time a little bit more in just regards to your serving on this board for everybody? I should ask the question to most everybody because you're all my co-workers here. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Well, thank you for that question. Through the chair, the meetings we usually have scheduled once a month, but both Sean Davis and Michael may also make sure to give us the background on the loans and let us know if there's a meeting that doesn't happen. So it's a once a month meeting, but many times there's not a meeting that month, and the time commitment is palpable. And I think, again, if it wasn't the time commitment for a board or a commission that wasn't helping out the municipalities and the county overwide, I would not want to be part of it. That said, I think it's a fair question to say how busy are we, and this is something that I think falls right into our duties in terms of collaboration.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That gives me a better perspective of once a month plus a little bit extra on the side. Thank you.
Any questions from my colleagues on the committee? Okay, if there are none, then thank you all for coming on board this morning and sharing with us your willingness to continue to serve in this capacity. This clearly needs to be moved under second reading suspension, so I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Sweeney.
Seconded by Sweeney. If there are no additional questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, this will move to the full body of the council under second reading suspension. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We understand your schedules are very busy. So if you'd like to stay, you are welcome to, but if you need to go, we understand that as well. All right, moving on to item C. Council Clerk, if you'll read that one into the record, please.
Resolution number 2021-0101, confirming the county executive's appointment of Elena Mccool to serve on the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities for the term May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2025.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Director Pomerantz, and I also see Kelly Petty is with us. Director, please give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cuyahoga County Executive is pleased to appoint Elena Mccool, subject to confirmation, for the Developmental Disabilities Board for a term beginning 5/1/2021 and expiring 4/30/2025. And as you mentioned, Director Kelly Petty is here as well. And Ms. Mccool is joining a board that is composed of 7 members. 5 of the members are appointed by the county and 2 are appointed by the probate court. This board helps establish policies to assist children and adults with developmental disabilities so they can learn, live, play, work, and be part of our community. Also, the board has policies and enacts that play a pivotal role in providing needed resources and assistance for families who have family members receiving services from this body. This nominee has experience in issues involving disabilities and has served in numerous volunteer roles assisting disabled individuals, and I think is an involved family member herself.
All right, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for the director before we move on to our candidates? All right, it appears there are none. So with that said, Elena, Ms. Mccool, you have the floor. If you will unmute yourself, share with us a little bit of your background and why you would like to serve in this capacity.
Hello to everybody. Again, my name is Elena. I am a registered nurse, been one for going on 8 years now. Initially, I served as hospice and med surg, and then did 3.5 years in pediatric OR. Over the course of that time, I've taken care of people who were disabled in a variety of ways. And then in 2018, I gave birth to my son, who was a micro preemie. He was born at 25 weeks. And that was my first real experience with hands-on involvement, I'll say, with the DODD. My goal, if I'm appointed, one is to learn more about what the DoD does, and then to serve as a bridge to those, my fellow colleagues who work inpatient as well as outpatient, because unless you are involved in the care of someone, you really have no idea what goes into that or what programs are available. And everything has been so much word of mouth that, almost if you don't have the right person telling you, you could miss out on a lot of opportunities. And I just think this would be a great opportunity to learn more and then to educate others, so that we can better inform, like I said, those in.
Uh-oh, you muted yourself on that last sentence. If you'll repeat that for us.
Sorry. But I just wanted to educate myself and others about ways we can help the community get more involved and be more knowledgeable of the resources and services that are available to people that need them.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, I am moved by your story and your willingness to serve. I am an aunt of a preemie. My nephew was supposed to be born in April 10th, as a matter of fact, and he actually was born on Christmas. So he also still has some developmental delays, but we know that with the right resources and programming and support networks that we can certainly advance and help our babies live positive and productive lives. And so with that, I will open up the floor if anyone has any questions for you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? All right. Well, listen, it looks like your testimony and your as well as your experience and your background is compelling enough that you have left our me and my colleagues speechless as it relates to your willingness to serve in this capacity. And we trust that you will be an awesome asset. And I know Director Petty is also so strong supporter. And so with that, if there are no questions, it is my honor and privilege to Councilman Sweeney. It looks like you've unmuted yourself. Did you have a question?
No, I'm good. I just want to vote for her in the affirmative.
Okay, so I think, and I'd like to add my name to this resolution. So I want to move this to the full body of the council under second reading suspension. Is there a second?
Second, Conwell.
By Councilwoman Conwell. If there are no questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's been unanimously approved. Ms. Cruel, you will be moving towards the to the full body of the council. And as the others before you, we appreciate you coming on and sharing. It's so vitally important to our committee that people demonstrate their willingness to serve in these capacities. And so putting a name with the faces is what we most appreciate, you coming, sharing your time. So if you have to go, we understand, but you are more than welcome to stay. And with that, we are going to move to item E. Item E. So Council Clerk, if you read that item into the record, please.
Resolution number 2021-0103, confirming the county executive's appointment of Roberta Duarte to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees for the term May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2024.
Director Pomerantz, it's back on you.
Back on me. Okay, well, thank you so much, Madam Chair. And again, thank you for supporting Elena. It's been great getting to know her a little bit throughout this experience. And now I'm excited to introduce Ms. Roberta Duarte for the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Board of Trustees. So pursuant to Section 306 of the Ohio Revised Code and the 1974 Joint County City of Cleveland legislation enacting the RTA, I'm pleased to nominate the following individual for appointment. Roberta Duarte for a 3-year term beginning May 1st, 2021 and expiring April 30th, 2024. One of 3 counties' appointments must be a resident of the City of Cleveland, as she is, and appointees Terrence P. Joyce and Karen Mills also fulfill this requirement. Important to note, trustees serve 3-year terms until they resign or are replaced, and board members are compensated $4,800 annually. We are pleased to provide support from, I think Janet from RTA is on here too. They also had an RTA board meeting. So, but hopefully, I think Janet Burney is here also from the RTA. But with that, if there are no other questions, I'm pleased to introduce the executive's appointment of Roberta Duarte.
Thank you, Director. I will open it up to my colleagues if they have any questions for the Director. If there are no questions for the Director, then Ms. Duarte, if you will unmute yourself and share with us a little bit of your background and why you would like to serve in this capacity.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, muchas gracias. Good morning, buenos días. I'm Roberta Duarte. I'm originally from Paraguay, and I wear multiple hats in Cleveland. I am one who believes that the path to equitable transportation exists in our collective wisdom. And it will be my honor to be on the RTA Board of Trustees and support their mission to make our public transit more equitable and inclusive, while also minimizing public health and climate change's impact. Safe, affordable, and reliable public transit benefits entire populations, right? Improving people's health and social mobility, and can also lead to economically vibrant communities. I've been in Cleveland for the better part of 10 years on and off, and I have relied on RTA for most of this time. I don't own a car. And I have an ample experience connecting with diverse communities and advising clients with respect to culturally and linguistically appropriate services, challenges, and opportunities. In other words, I am an avid writer and recognize transportation habits change quickly. Organizations that serve these communities need to evolve to effectively serve them. And when underestimated communities or comunidades have a voice at the table, we all win. I have worked locally and abroad, primarily resolving strategic issues related to outreach and resource access. I was brought back to Cleveland as part of the inaugural cohort of the Cleveland Foundation Public Service Fellowship, where I served as a community and public health fellow at the Metro Health System. While there, worked closely with senior leadership and a cross-functional implementation team on a variety of population health or public health initiatives in Cuyahoga County, including the Metro Health bus line, which that's 51A, B, and C. I've also spent time with AmeriCorps, CDR Cleveland, Esperanza Inc., which is an organization focused on supporting the Latinx, Latino, Latina community of Cleveland's Near West Side. Today, as a project manager at Jumpstart Inc., I've been fortunate enough to connect with a wide range of multi-generational community leaders, organizations, entrepreneurs, citizens, constituents throughout Northeast Ohio. And through my consulting arm, Areco Consulting, I've also helped develop and implement culturally competent initiatives like 25 Connects or 25 Conecta for the RTA. So my role on this project was conducting ethnographic analyses and outreach initiatives to understand the most powerful way to increase use of tomorrow's transit system through design, education, and awareness. So it'll be an honor to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees and continue to encourage community input, because that's the right decision, that's the right direction to real systematic changes. Thank you, gracias.
Oh, you're very welcome. Listen, I think that you are an equally impressive candidate that will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience. One of the things you touched on in your opening remarks is the ability to identify some of the challenges as it relates to public transportation. As an avid writer, what would you say is the greatest challenge?
Yeah, that's an incredible question. Thank you for asking. And I think this daily, right? Just as I go to work or wherever I have to, be. And I think is definitely the community engagement and focusing on the writer's experience. And as I was doing my research, right, applying for this appointment and talking to, even through my work with the consulting to RTA staff, I'm very excited to see that the strategic plan for the RTA in the next 10 years, right, it's really focusing on that. We, like I said on my statement, I think changes will happen if we listen more to our community. I think at times we are in places where communications is tricky and it's not transparent. And so, again, I would say that the best way to move this forward is community engagement, because it's a very diverse, we have a very diverse region. And we have people that are technologically, linguistically, just disconnected. And although it takes more time and energy and dollars, we need to start looking at these root problems, not just symptoms of why we're stuck, why are we not growing. And that's the reason why also I moved to Cleveland, and I see the opportunities, best practices, and want to sooner rather than later, right, become one of those cities close to Denver and New York City and Chicago, right, that are doing around public transportation.
Okay, and so I guess one last question for me is that I have been, it has been shared with me, and maybe you could speak to this, the commute time. What is your average commute, and do you, because there's been people that live near me that may need to get downtown where it would take me 20 minutes, it would take them, over an hour on public transportation to have that same route. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it all depends of, where you're going. Like I said, I wear multiple hats in the community. I serve in multiple boards. I volunteer throughout the region. And, if I just have to go down Euclid, that will take me around 15, 20 minutes. And that's if the RTA is on time, which is another challenge, right? But if I have to go somewhere to the near west side, again, it depends if I'm taking one line, which, the Metro Health line could be one, or other, I keep my options open because you never know, right? And again, we just have to do a better job on our services and making sure that they're reliable. So again, it's a challenge, and let's just not think about the timing. Let's also think about the weather, right? As someone that uses public transit and constantly connecting with the community or residents, it's not fun to wait for 30 minutes in the middle of the winter in a winter city, right? So that's something that, I'm excited to bring to the board if, this goes through. And I know the Reverend Lucas, it's a huge advocate too as a public transit user. And so, I mean, again, it takes more than one to push to make difference. And I'm excited. I'm excited to learn and to make sure that we can do better.
All right, thank you so much. I see Councilman Miller unmuted himself. Mr. Councilman Miller, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. I would first like to thank you for stepping up and volunteering for this important appointment, and to say that I'm really excited about this appointment. I've just heard for a long time about the advocates desiring to have people on the board who are riders of RTA, who are close to the grassroots, who are involved in public engagement, and who add diversity, and you do all of those things plus to bring a strong professional background. So I couldn't think of a stronger appointment, and I was also very, very happy that you mentioned about climate change. I think it's such an important part of our existence right now that everybody has to be involved in it, whatever ways that they can. And I would be interested in your thoughts on what the RTA can do to be a part of a positive response to the challenge of climate change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Again, I mean, it'll be an honor for me. And I don't know if I said this in my statement, but I have a background in global and public health. So I tend to look at things holistically, right? I don't think there's one division or one industry that can do it alone. They're all connected, right? And so when it comes to climate change, I'm aware that the county has incredible just strategies and reports that were launched, right, internally. And so I think one of the things that I want to bring to the table is, being the bridge, communicating, making sure that we are connecting the dots as the RTA is working on their strategic plan, right? And that could be just from engaging our residents and educating in the importance of, having their voice and coming to our meetings or tuning online, right? Because it's live now, and obviously there's we can't really meet in person. But there's different strategies, different ways to mobilize and make sure that, again, we as a region are looking into climate change and making ways to, again, make our city healthier and successful.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you, and I would like to respectfully ask that my name be added as a sponsor on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mine as well. Any other questions from the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair. Through the chair to Ms. Duarte, in terms of board member, I apologize. I don't remember if you're being reappointed or appointed, but do you know, or Director Pomerantz, if there are cultural groups that are having issues in terms of RTA service, are they allowed to present at any of the board meetings?
Through the chair, I believe there's some public comment at RTA board meetings. I'm not sure if there's a particular group at this time who is having any issues. I do know that the group organization Riders for Public Transit had been in contact with us, and I think also sent a letter of support for Mr. Duarte. But other than that group, I have not heard any other issues with that.
Yeah, there's the Asian community, and they would like to have their voices heard in terms of things that are happening due to the COVID-19 response, pandemic. And so I'm just trying to figure out who would be the best segue for them to connect with. And
Through the chair, that would be great if they could connect with me, and I'll make sure that the RTA Director India Birdsong and Flounce Carter have direct connections with them. In the last week, I have spoken with 2 or 3 members of the AAPI community regarding board memberships and commission memberships, not specifically the ones listed today, but for future opportunities to be more connected and have leadership roles in boards and commissions.
okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Michelle. Thank
Morning,
you.
this is Janet Burney. Can you hear me?
And who is?
Who is this?
I'm sorry for interrupting. This is Janet Burney from RTA.
Oh, okay. Yes, please. If you can provide a response to Councilwoman Conwell, we welcome that.
Sure. First, good morning to everyone. I want to thank the county for its efforts to add another truly engaged individual to our board. We do have a committee, an advisory committee that works with our board toward community engagement and connecting with our riders and ridership issues. You certainly can contact, right now India Birdsong is out of the office, but you can reach out to acting GM Flounce Caver to connect with the community and to have those issues addressed. Or you can even contact me if you'd like. We'd be more than happy to try to assist in making sure that people have their voices heard. As has already been mentioned, we do have portions of our board committee meetings. Our board meeting was today, where we allow public comment, but we are always open to groups and individuals reaching out to our staff. We have individuals who I'm sure people know, Mr. Feliciano or Eric Johnson, who work with the community. So we are certainly open to having the community's voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one last time, I apologize if you'll state your name for the record, because your name is showing up as Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. So
they do call me that. Yes, I'm called that. I've been called that and other things as well. But my name is Janet Burney. I'm a Deputy General Counsel here at RTA.
Thank you,
I
Deb.
apologize for not having my name showing, but that's right.
No worries, no worries. All right. Are there any other questions, Councilwoman Conwell? Okay, all right. That concludes our questions. If there are no additional questions from my colleagues on this matter, we thank you for coming on the Zoom call today to share your willingness to serve in this capacity. And this appears to also need to be moved under second suspension. So I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Sweeney.
Seconded by Sweeney. If there are no additional questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that sounds like everyone.
Thank you.
Council, under second reading suspension, thank you for joining us today. We understand your schedules are busy, so if you'd like to stay, you are more than welcome to do so. But if you have to go, we understand as well. Council Clerk, if you read item F into the record, please.
Resolution number 2021-0104, confirming the county executive's appointment of Peggy Zone Fisher to serve on the Cleveland Cuyahoga County Port Authority Board of Directors for the term April 20th, 2021 to April 20th, 2025.
All right, Director Pomerantz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Cleveland Cuyahoga County Port Authority Board of Directors was established in 1968 to manage maritime operations, and the organization of the Board of Directors were created pursuant to the provisions of the ORC Chapter 4582.03. The Port of Cleveland's job is to foster job creation and economic vitality in Cleveland and Cuyahoga. And we are happy to introduce, on behalf of the county executive, Ms. Peggy Zone Fisher, for the appointment to the board term beginning 4/20/2021 and expiring 4/20/2025. Beside Ms. Zone Fisher, we also have Carl Nassau from Port Authority, who has joined us today to help support with any questions regarding the board.
Excellent. Before we move and open the floor to Ms. Peggy Zone Fisher, are there any questions for Director Pomerantz regarding the nomination for the board?
Just very briefly.
Yes, Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Who was the previous board member that has left when it made the opening through the chair?
That would be Harriet Applegate, and she had served for.
No, thank you. That's good enough. Appreciate it.
Appointed in 2014.
I'm good.
Any additional? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. With that, if you will unmute yourself, state your name for the record, give us a little bit of background and why you like to serve in this capacity.
I will do that. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Peggy Zone Fisher, and I am President and CEO of the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio. Thank you to Chairwoman Brown, and good morning to all honorable council people. Without indicating and naming all of you, you know who you are. I am, first of all, so honored to have been asked to whether or not I would be interested in joining the Port Authority. And I have to say that, first of all, I was thrilled. I was honored and humbled by even having been reached out to. I can't think of, when I think of the Port Authority, I really can't think of any other economic development engine for Northeast Ohio than the port. This is important work that's happening. And so just a little bit about my background and why I think that I could really add to the port and serving on the board. I grew up on the west side of Cleveland. I grew up on the lake, right there, lakefront, Edgewater Park. That was Edgewater Beach. That was my playground. I have a interesting perspective. I come from a public background, private background, owning a corporation for 30 years in the city of Cleveland, and now had come from a perspective of a nonprofit president and CEO. So I bring three different elements to the way that I think and the way that I see. And everything that I do, and I'll just say this and put it aside, but everything that I do and every issue that comes in front of me, I look at them, whether it's economic development, whether it's healthcare, what all of the issues that the Diversity Center works with, I'm looking at them through a diversity lens. And it is critical. And I've heard, individuals today talking about DEI, their perspective. I can assure you that for me, that is what I am focusing on. And so when we're looking at jobs, when we're looking at economic development, I can assure you that I will also be looking at those issues through a diversity lens. Growing up on the west side of Cleveland, I remember as a little girl going down to East 9th and waving goodbye to my parents who boarded a cruise line at East 9th. It was incredible. And how wonderful would that be to bring back our Cleveland Express line, a direct line. We are the direct line to Europe with all the ports. So I've been learning a great deal about what the Port Authority does. I have a lot more to learn. I can guarantee you that whenever I serve, I've served on many, many boards and commissions, and I take those responsibilities, I take them seriously. So I will be all in if I are given the honor of serving on this board. You have 100% of my time and commitment to the board. I had the opportunity in my public life, I didn't run for public office, but understand what that is just through living with people who have served in public office. On the local level, I grew up in a family of both my parents were Cleveland City Council people. And I will say, how my life comes full circle. Even when my parents were in Cleveland City Council, I grew up with parents who they never sat and lectured us, but they instilled in us the meaning of what social justice is about. And I have to this day have been very proud of my father, Mike Zone, who back in the 60s was the only West Side council person who worked really for Carl Stokes to become the first African-American mayor of a major big city. Mike Zone was the only one on the West Side. So that's sort of the home that I grew up in without being lectured about why you should be doing the right thing. My parents taught us that our world was bigger than the intersection of West 65th and Detroit. So we should be thinking more broadly, and we should be incorporating and welcoming everybody, regardless of race, age, religion, ethnicity. And so when I was into my business world, President Bill Clinton asked me to serve as one of 10 White House commissioners for small business. And in that role, it was not a position that I ran for, but it was an appointment by the President of the United States. In that role, I traveled the country working with small business leaders all over the country, helping them understand what was involved with even what are their issues with the federal government? How can the federal government help in their areas with economic development issues? How can we as a federal government at that time, we meaning in my role, what kinds of challenges do small businesses, and when I say small business, a small business is really 500 employees and less. So it involves the mom and pop businesses, but it also incorporates what I would think is a large business of 500 employees. So I learned a lot through that experience. I learned about economic development and that engine and how it was important for regions, this is all over the country, how it was important for regions to support and work with them. And so I worked with the SBA, and so that's my private experience. And then I have my nonprofit experience. And when I sold my business in 2005, at the time I sold it, I had a travel business in Cleveland. At the time I sold it, it was the largest female-owned business in the city proper, not Northeast Ohio. And I had no idea what I was going to do next. I just knew I would know it when I saw it. And so I sort of kept myself open to what were some opportunities or what was going to be the next phase in my life. And when this opportunity came along in 2006, the Diversity Center the organization's been around since 1927. It started as the National Conference of Christians and Jews. So the name changed over the years to better reflect the work that we do. And we work in 11 counties. I never thought that I would run and lead a nonprofit. I've served on multiple nonprofit boards, but there was something about the Diversity Center and its mission, which has never changed since 1927. The mission is we work to eliminate bias, bigotry, and racism. And we do that through education and advocacy work. And that resonated to my core. And I felt like my life was coming full circle. If I could do for our community, and I was being very selfish, I love our Northeast Ohio community. I love Cleveland. I'm a Clevelander. And being selfish meaning I want to make sure that there are opportunities for our young people to stay in Cleveland, in Northeast Ohio. I don't want my children growing up and moving somewhere else, but young people need to feel that they are heard, that they are welcomed, and they're valued. And so that was the way that was why I decided to lead the Diversity Center. And, I do take these responsibilities very seriously. Every one of my nonprofit responsibilities I've taken on as a leadership role. I was the first woman appointed to Lutheran Medical Center. This was back in 1981, and was the first woman. It was hard to believe at that point, but we were very responsible for ensuring that Lutheran Hospital at the time was going to stay in the neighborhood, because there was talk, they were not part of Cleveland Clinic. So there was talk about closing it, moving everybody to Lakewood Hospital and Fairview Hospital. So I was involved in the merger of those three, Lutheran, Fairview, Lakewood, to stay together, to join. And then part of the merger of taking those hospitals, those three hospitals that those neighborhoods, they were the lifelines for those neighborhoods, and moving them to the Cleveland Clinic, and was very proud of that. I'm proud of the work that I do. I'm proud of the work that I've done in my public life and my private life, and now in my nonprofit life. And I know that how important economic development is for our region, and how exciting and what a wonderful opportunity we have right now. I am a very hopeful person, and I see Cleveland and Northeast Ohio really on the rise. And I want to be able to ensure that and make sure that our community is safe and secure and whole. And we can do that through the work of the Port Authority. It is the biggest economic development engine in Northeast Ohio, and frankly, even beyond Northeast Ohio. And I want to make sure that we have another cruise line come down to East Ninth. No. But we have a new center, this Welcome Center. I don't know if anybody's I know we're living in this day of Zoom, but if you have an opportunity to get in your car and drive around the port and see this new beautiful welcome center. There's so many wonderful things that we could be doing and that we are doing. And I just would be honored to be able to play a small part in that.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. You clearly have a great length of experience and history connected to the Port Authority. So it's clear why you were nominated. I'm going to open it up. I see Councilman Miller has already prepared to present a question or comment. So Councilman Miller, the floor is yours.
Uh-oh, big deal. Okay, Councilman Miller, be kind. Okay.
Oh, I assure you, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to start with a Marty Sweeney style point of personal privilege and just say hello. And we've worked together on some of your family's campaigns, and it's been a pleasure to know you. And I support your nomination, and I want to have my name added as a sponsor. But I do want to ask just one very, very big picture question based on all of your myriad experience that you've described this morning. What do you think are the most important things that Greater Cleveland can do over the next several years to improve our performance on diversity and inclusion?
Well, that's a wonderful question. And I would like to, I look at things not even so much as the next 20 years. I'd like to look at things as the next 1 to 3 years. Because what do we do in year 1? And how do we approach diversity and inclusion in year 2 and then in year 3? And so that's, for me, that's the way that I look at things. It's a little more doable and I can get my arms around it. But
okay, well, I did not say 20 years. I said the next few years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm with you.
Okay, good. Okay, I thought I heard 20, but that's good. Okay. That was a big question, in other words, that I thought it was. We have to start with educating our young people. We have to start with young people because they're open. And, we do diversity training. We work in 150 schools, the Diversity Center. Young people are open to understanding what it means to be inclusive. What does it mean to accept people for who they are? And if you know me, and I'm speaking in general terms, if you know me, you're not going to be afraid of me. You're going to know everything about me. So we need to have these conversations. We need to have different voices around the board tables. We work with corporations, we do training, corporations, nonprofits, law firms, and we work to ensure that companies have different voices at their table. I work with a lot of companies who say, no, diversity is important and we're going to hire diverse individuals. Well, that's fantastic and that's great. But once you hire them, it's not just diversity, it's the inclusion piece. Let people feel that they are welcome and that their voices are heard. And if we're sitting around a table and we all look the same, we're not going to come up with any great ideas. But if we sit around a table and we take an issue and we have different voices, we are going to be able to move anything forward. So I say we need to continue to challenge each other. We need to have conversations, and we need to have really tough conversations because that's important too. Don't be afraid to have a tough conversation. And when you do talk about diversity, there really isn't any, some people don't like to talk about it because they feel, well, I don't have the right words. There are no right words, or it's okay. This is a hard, raggedy kind of conversation. And I just welcome that. And I think that's what we need to do. Thank you for that question.
Councilman Miller, did you have any other questions?
That's it. That's enough. I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
That's it. Okay. All right. If there are no additional questions, comments, or concerns, thank you so much for a thorough presentation. I'm going to move this to the full body of the council under second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Councilman Miller. If there are no additional questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today as our previous guests and nominees. If you'd like to stay, you are welcome to do so, but we understand people are busy. So if you have to go, we understand that too.
Brown, may I welcome Director Fisher to the board?
Oh, sure. Yes.
I just wanted to welcome you to the board. It's Carl Nassau, I'm the CFO at the port. I just wanted to welcome you, and your background's so impressive. We're looking forward to working with you and, furthering our mission for economic growth and vitality in Cuyahoga County. And also we have, all the inclusion initiatives we have and the requirements we have for all that we do. We know you're going to be very supportive and helpful, and we look forward to it. And if you have any questions as you're educating yourself on the process, I know that our first board meeting is, I believe, the 14th, May 13th. And anytime prior to that, if you want to reach out, I'll send you an email later today with some documents, some other things. But if you have any questions or you want to talk through that at all, please give me a call or send me an email, and we'd love to help you. And we're excited to have you there.
Thank you.
We're going to miss Director Applegate, but we're looking forward to seeing you. So.
Thank you, Carl. And I appreciate you reaching out this way. And yes, I would love to connect with you offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for that welcome. We do just want to indicate for the record, this will move to the full body of the council for the final approval, but we are certainly moving towards that direction. So we certainly appreciate Mr. Naso's willingness to welcome you on board. This will go to the full body for a final vote, and I think you will be a tremendous asset to the group for that May 13th meeting. So with that said, thank you both for joining us this morning. And if there are no additional comments, then I'm going to move on to item H. I'm sorry, item G. It looks like we're on. All right, thank you all.
Ordinance number 2021-0005, providing for modifications to and adoption of the Cuyahoga County Human Resources Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual Employee Handbook to recognize Juneteenth as a paid county holiday to be applicable to all county employees.
Oh, I like that.
All right, and who is item?
Madam Chair.
That sounds like our county executive. Is that County Executive Buthers? Did you want to start the conversation around this piece of legislation that you're introducing today?
Yes, if I could just say a few words, then I'll turn it over to Jesse Drucker to make the formal presentation, if that's okay with you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. And thanks for considering this proposal to make Juneteenth a holiday. I'd like to present a few excerpts from an article in the Washington Post last year. Juneteenth is a celebration of Black history and freedom. Juneteenth is now prominent on the nation's calendar, propelled there by sweeping protests against racial injustice and the decision by some high-profile companies to make the day a holiday for all employees. The holiday gets its name from June 19, 1865. That's the day the Union Army arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce that all African-American slaves in the state were free in accordance with President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. The state was the last in the Confederacy to receive word that the Civil War was over and that slavery had been abolished. As early as 1866, freed African Americans in Texas held a celebration on the date to commemorate the end of slavery. In 1968, shortly after Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, his Poor People's Campaign held a Juneteenth Solidarity Day, giving the holiday new prominence in the civil rights movement. That was from the Washington Post. I also want to quote briefly from Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. By choosing to celebrate the last place in the South that freedom touched, we remember the shining promise of emancipation. My hope this Juneteenth is that we never forget it. As for me, I appreciate Council's consideration of this proposal. I think it's especially appropriate to discuss this while the jury in Minnesota deals with the fate of Derek Chauvin. We're very focused here in the county on improving equity in the county. I know creating a holiday is not the same as creating diversity in jobs or healthcare or housing. But as Peggy Zone Fisher just said in responding to Councilman Miller, education is key to enhancing equity. Creating a holiday is a good way to educate the community, as well as to prompt discussion and commemorate important events in our history. So I'm asking that you favorably consider this request to add Juneteenth as a holiday for the county. And now I'll turn it over to Jesse.
So what I would like to do is to talk about what's happening in Cuyahoga County and then look at some trends nationally. We're here talking to you about Juneteenth because of our own work in promoting diversity and inclusion. And these discussions that we've been having over the past period of time have led us to this point. You'll recall that there was a series of executive orders that are aimed at elevating opportunities for minority-owned business. And there's an internal commission focused on examining our own culture and our own practices. Council declared racism as a public health crisis, and we're all committed to creating dynamic change and reduce disparities in our daily operations. The proposed legislation is a part of the work that we've all been engaged in. The council, I believe, has seen the Citizens Advisory Council on Racism report and the Internal Equity report. If someone hasn't, my office can forward those over to you. This change will affect approximately 4,500 executive agency employees. We don't make policy for the other boards and commissions and offices. However, they may follow our lead. Around the nation, all but one state recognize Juneteenth in some form or another. There are 4 states, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, and Texas, that have paid leave for their state employees. Texas has it as a floating holiday for their employees. The city of New York now has it as an official city holiday for city employees and a public school holiday. The city and county of Honolulu has recognized it as an annual day of honor and reflection, and Portland, Oregon has it as a city holiday for their employees as a day of remembrance. So I'm open to any questions that you may have about this.
Thank you, Executive Budish, and thank you, Director Drucker. You mentioned the disparity study, and you also mentioned the recommendation of CASE, our Citizens Advisory Council on Equity. Was this one of their recommendations? It's in discussion. I have not seen it as a recommendation, but I think that this is a natural outgrowth of the discussions that we've been having. I think if you look at the history of how this day has been named over time, it's been Freedom Day and Jubilee Day and Liberation Day and Emancipation Day. But the history that Executive Budish talked about has really been around education. Historically, these events that have been held on Juneteenth have involved education, and it's the history of this is it started out as voter education and has continued that general theme throughout. Voter education is something.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, it's something that I think is a much needed path to progress in. Would certainly be on the right track. When we talk about equity and equality being a part of our day-to-day interests and goals, I know that there are issues of parity as it relates to pay equity with some of our leadership positions in,
yes, ma'am.
In administration. And what are our thoughts around ensuring that we are addressing equity issues? Because it seems to me would be a investment, and one that, while seemingly on the basis of good intentions, would likely benefit everyone. So can you kind of talk to me a little bit?
Sure. Well, Ms. Brown, I think you're familiar with my department's own efforts to address the issues of institutionalized racism with respect to the tuition reimbursement proposal that I put forward, and the work that my department is doing with the PRC in terms of educational qualifications. Beyond that, I've started some discussions concerning a compensation survey that is a midterm project. Compensation studies don't happen immediately. It takes a fairly long time to do. But I'm working on a proposal for a compensation and pay equity study that would level the playing field in terms of how we calculate our salaries.
And speaking of calculating salaries, how much
Yes, ma'am.
the cost of how much it would cost the county to add an additional holiday?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. On average, based on 2020 statistics, a holiday costs about $1.2 million, plus approximately $220,000 in overtime for any given holiday day to staff the 24-hour operations.
All right, I'm going to open it up to my colleagues if they have any questions on the matter.
Chairwoman Brown, if I might just answer your earlier question, can I do that?
Sure, go ahead, Executive Budish, you have the floor.
Thank you. You asked about the case committee. To my understanding, it has not been formally considered yet by case, but Ms. Naila Bird has spoken with the chair of the committee, Eddie Taylor, who it's my understanding is very supportive.
Okay, thank you. And I think I heard Councilman Sweeney and then followed by Councilwoman Conwell. Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, to the county executive and to the director. First, it's nice meeting you over the Zoom, Director, and I look forward to seeing you in person one of these days soon.
We have met once, Councilman. Very briefly.
Thanks for calling me out on that. I appreciate that as well. I'm just kidding. Just a slight reflection, then a question. Having it a holiday takes it from just talking about it, and our county executive and our council president should be recognized for taking leadership roles in the diversity issue. And the question is, when is it going to be effective? Is it going to be this year or next year? Because I don't have the legislation in front of me.
I think the goal would be to try to make it effective. Well, I won't speak for this. This isn't my legislation, so I'll
the goal is to make it effective this year if we can. It depends on the timing for approval from council.
Yeah, and I just brought that up through the chair to our county executive, just for operational purposes. So if you need more time or not more time, so I was just trying to get a handle on that. So thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, and I will relinquish the floor.
To that point, and I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Conwell, June 19th this year, I believe falls on a Saturday. So would it take effect on the Friday or the Monday? Just a thought to consider. Councilwoman Conwell.
The Friday. If it were enacted for this year, it would take effect on the Friday.
Okay, Councilwoman Conwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess this would be directed toward County Executive Budish. If I'm in support, I'm was hearing about the money and things of that, but I think we should not just have a day off for employees to salute the struggles of African American ancestors for educational purposes, but since we have declared racism as a public health crisis, that the county actually utilize the day, if approved, as a report day on the strides that the county has made with our CASI group. We can do some, if it's approved, some dynamic things in terms of how we keep our constituents and the public informed about the strides that are being made toward equity. So that would be my first suggestion. And then how many, my question would be, how many holidays, if this is approved, will we have for the county? I thought it was 9, but it might be a little more.
There are 11, they're currently, including the day after Thanksgiving, there are currently 11 county holidays.
So this would make 12?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And just to respond to Councilwoman Conwell, I think it's a great idea to incorporate the programming that you suggested and to do as much as we can in terms of education, both for the employees and for the community.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Great.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Council President, you have the floor.
Thank you. And first, I appreciate the comments about Juneteenth. It's an important day. It is certainly worthy of being honored. Many of us know all about it, and many of us don't. The education process around Juneteenth certainly continues, and holidays can do that, can be an opportunity to learn more about it. As you said, that day in the South, in Galveston, Texas, when those remaining slaves were made aware by the Union that that slavery had ended, okay, even though it had ended a little early, you know, they were made aware, okay. But you know, I also remember 1865 was the same year the Ku Klux Klan was created. You can go to many African-American museums and see that fact. The year that the Ku Klux Klan was created. When we talk about racial disparity as being a health crisis, it is a crisis. There was no need for the Klan before 1865. And we know their agenda. We know the agenda of white supremacy and how it conflicts directly with this county's stated mission of racism being a health disparity. I mean, the use of nooses and burning crosses to as a means of force, tools of force, illegitimate force, and even legitimate force and political power has been used by white supremacists from then all down in today. From 1865, a desire to take America back to the way it used to be, to return it to its greatness. And from 1865 to the days before, that those themes still echo down to today. So I say that to say how important that issue is. But I also think that we can elevate more than just education about the particular day. That will continue. But I feel it's still time. It's time for action as well. It's time for action. And one thought I would like this committee to consider is that with the holiday off, with the day off, that we consider Election Day as the day that we have off, as opposed to June 19th, which in this case we'd be celebrating on Friday, on the 18th. Let's consider the opportunity to give every county employee that same day off, but on the November election day, every Tuesday, a set day. And with that, they will have the opportunity to not only fellowship and learn about important historical facts, but have the opportunity to exercise the very freedom that Juneteenth echoes for us and shares with us. The ability to go out and cast a vote, to have that day off for the purpose of the opportunity, again, to cast a vote, to even engage in their civic engagement if they so chose, to be involved in the political process on that day. It would give us a greater opportunity to serve, to provide service, and actively engage, which further reinforces our understanding when we actually roll up our sleeves and have an opportunity to do something that is a direct result of our liberties that June 19th, Juneteenth provide for us. So I throw that out there as a consideration for this committee and for the council as a whole to, again, take that in consideration. If so, we certainly could have staff work on amending legislation in the coming days. But again, I ask that consideration.
Thank you, Council President. I certainly believe that that would be a more significant and meaningful use of our resources as it relates to really putting some teeth, if you will, into the legislation around declaring racism as a public health crisis. Not only are we in this climate of states that are taking actions to roll back voting rights, particularly against communities of colors and minorities, that something like that would certainly provide an opportunity to promote equity, and also when we think about it, even an opportunity for those who should so desire to even earn additional income, as there are opportunities to work on election day. So not only would you have a paid holiday off, you could actually earn a little extra income as you participate in the civic process. So certainly happy to entertain that. And it appears that Councilwoman Conwell has unmuted herself, or no, Councilwoman Baker, I apologize. Councilwoman Conwell, Councilwoman Baker has unmuted herself. So if you have a question or a comment, Councilwoman Baker.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for letting me sit in today. It's fascinating, your committee. I don't sit in very often. So it was good to see all those different candidates stepping up and serving. The only suggestion I guess I would have, and this is why I came to this committee, is I really wanted to hear some of the comments and some of the rationalization behind it. I thought perhaps, it just as another suggestion in this important day, is that we celebrate it within the county day, that while we have our employees working, we also introduce on that day why it's an important day, and we have them as a captured audience because they are working. Being creative and trying to celebrate through a lot of different media means, and I'm sure we could be creative. I guess my concern too is the 1.2 million can certainly go a long way to addressing some of the services, especially when we talk about a public health crisis. And we're all still enduring the pandemic. So, that's a lot of money to be spending right now, and adding a 12th day to our list of days, which is, I believe, the highest amount of days off when you compare it to the industry. So those are my comments. I certainly agree that it's an important day. I just think we can celebrate it within the day and bring attention to it as we should. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're on mute, Ms. Brown.
Councilwoman, after all of these years and me, rarity for me, but thank you. So Councilwoman Baker, I appreciate your comments. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues around the discussion? All right. Well, I think there is I think that there is a lot to consider, quite frankly. I certainly appreciate the administration's initiative to call attention to this holiday, which is, or this day, but has been around for quite some time. But I really, it really gives me, I think we should really give some further consideration to what our council president has presented. And I also think that it is important that we, to Councilwoman Baker's point, that when we're also talking about the allocation of resources, it cannot be ignored or left off the table that we have a serious equity issue that needs to be addressed. And I know that there are some efforts being put forth around that. And that to me would be an even greater and impactful use of these funds. So with where I'm at right now, I'm not sure if it's if I would like to. I think I want to hold this so we can reconsider the suggestion made by our council president. Is there any additional comments? If not, I'd like for our staff to consider the suggestions in amending the legislation to address the conversation around perhaps if we're going to utilize or introduce another day off, that it be that election day where we really as a community can really emphasize and exercise the a right that came as a result of 1863 and not until 1865 and was blocked by Jim Crow laws for 100 years. And so 1965, here we are, civil rights movements, and still fighting this fight to be able to really engage in a political process that is being fought with intensity to deny people that look like me the right to cast a ballot. And so I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Council President, in presenting an alternative of how we can be impactful as it relates to introducing an opportunity for Black people to really get an opportunity to exercise some equity and power as it relates to their personal futures in the political process.
And I support your idea of holding it. It certainly would give us all time to have those necessary conversations offline and publicly, and again, continue that conversation in a future committee. So I certainly support you.
All right, thank you so much. If there are no objections, then I'd like to move to the next item, and we will consider that item in a future conversation after giving it a little more thought and time to reflect. So thank you to the administration for presenting that today. If we'll read the next item into the record.
Ordinance number 2021-0007, enacting section 202.21 of the county code, establishing a Department of Equity and Inclusion to enhance equity both within county government and throughout the community of Cuyahoga County, amending chapter 509 of the county code to specify certain duties of the department.
All right, who's here to speak to this item? And then I see Mr. Chambers' lips are moving, but I do not hear you. Mr. Chambers.
So
Mr. Chambers will be speaking. Yes.
I thought I was doing good. Sorry.
I just did this.
Good morning.
It happens to the best of us. So, Mr. Chambers, you have the floor.
Thank you. And once again, Chairwoman Brown and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee regarding this ordinance, which creates the Department of Equity and Inclusion. The legislation before you will be a major step in achieving.
And somehow you put yourself back on mute, Mr. Chambers.
Very sensitive, I'm sorry. The legislation before you will be a major step in achieving the recommendations outlined in the 2020 disparity study that was done last year, along with the following highlights of the executive orders issued by the county executive. Executive Order 2021-001 creates a contracting program designed to increase participation of minority and women business opportunities. The program shall include contract by contract goals, which are tailored to each specific county project. Executive Order 2021-002 states that all county departments under the executive are directed to compile a forecast for the following 24-month period, and this forecast will be posted on the county website. Executive Order 2021-003 states that the county shall conduct outreach to contractors and vendors desiring to do business with the county and to educate them on the program, on the goals, and on the good faith efforts. Executive Order 2021-004, all county departments under the county executive are directed to expand the use of the small business set-aside program to enhance access of minority and women businesses to contracting opportunities within the county. The creation of this new department, in conjunction with the executive orders, will provide the framework for enhancing and improving equity within Cuyahoga County government and throughout the community as called for in the disparity study. The new Department of Equity Inclusion will work closely with outside equity committees and the many county departments under the county executive to increase participation of minority and women-owned businesses in the county contracting opportunities, to work with the Office of Innovation and Performance to develop metric reports that track the progress of county departments in meeting goals, to work with HR to develop and implement training programs to build a culture of equity within the county, to accept and evaluate inquiries and complaints from the public, have the authority to recommend rejecting any bid or proposal based on the evaluation of MWBE compliance goals, and to conduct a disparity study every 5 years and update the county's program accordingly to encourage greater participation of women and minority businesses in our contracting process. In closing, the approval of this ordinance will lay the foundation in achieving equity in the county's contracting process as outlined in the disparity study. The department will have the authority and the staffing levels to make major differences in the equity and inclusion opportunities in the county contracting. Within the 2021 budget is $500,000 to fund this department. The intention of the budget is to fund the director and additional outreach members to work full-time on diversity and inclusion efforts as outlined in the disparity study. We are very excited to bring this legislation forward to this committee and request that the committee consider moving this item to full council. Joining me is Lenora Lockett and Greg Huth to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Chamber. Okay, so this is a lot to digest, and we're at the 12 o'clock hour. And so I'm not sure that we'll get to a conclusion in this hour, or this the time that we have allotted for the meeting. So if it makes sense, we can certainly move this item as well to the next meeting, or if you are open to starting discussions. I do have a couple of questions that might be helpful for the future conversation. Establishing the department, if it's okay to just kind of open up the 1 or 2 questions. Establishing a department, would that mean ending another?
What it would be is separating the current Office of Procurement and Diversity into 2 separate departments. One would be procurement and one would now be our inclusion and equity department.
Okay, and with that procurement department, how many does it currently staff?
I'll defer to Lenora. Lenora, do you have the exact number?
Good afternoon, Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. There are 3 divisions. The Diversity Division currently has 1 senior contract compliance officer and 3 contract compliance officers that report to that person. So there's 4 directly dedicated to that Diversity Division.
Or directly in the entire department, procurement and diversity. So the other 2.
So the other 2 divisions, there are, right now, as part of the purchasing division, there's a purchasing manager, and there are 11 purchasing agents. It was originally 8, but with the implementation of the ERP and the increase in the workload, the executive and fiscal officer and the chief of staff found funding for additional purchasing agents. So that has grown from 8 purchasing agents and a purchasing manager to still 1 purchasing manager and 11 purchasing agents. Then we have the agenda division that was staffed by the border control coordinator, the administrative officer, and then there were 5 administrative assistants. When we're currently proceeding with that, there's 1 vacancy. We just promoted the administrative officer to the border control coordinator position. So there's that vacancy that's in the process. I believe it just advertised yesterday. And then there's 1 administrative assistant, secretary that reports to me.
All right. So this definitely, just given the details that you shared with me in the opening, and the desire to move this legislation forward, certainly requires a much lengthier and healthy conversation. So I am going to out of respect of time, and again, respect for the giving this legislation the attention and the discussion that it deserves, ask that hold this and move it to our next committee meeting, which is to be determined. And if there are no objections to that, I think that will probably be the best way to move forward as it relates to both item G as well as H. And it appears, County Executive, did you have any additional comments around this legislation before we close out the meeting?
No, thank you, Chairwoman. I just want to say I have no objection to holding this piece of legislation. And I think Mr. Drucker wanted to add something to the discussion.
Madam Chair, either I misspoke or I was misunderstood. The additional cost on the holiday, the additional outlay on the holiday is $220,000. We are already paying the 1.2 million in wages, so there would be no additional wage outlay. There would be an additional outlay only for the additional overtime.
Okay, that's helpful. All right, any other, if all minds are clear on the last three items, again, I appreciate you during this meeting. I think we did get a lot accomplished, but there's so much more work to be done. So stay tuned to determine when the next meeting will be. Is there any miscellaneous business from my colleagues or the committee? All right, if there is none, thank you so much again for all of your time and attention as it related to these very important matters. We will reconvene, and our council staff will keep everyone notified as to when that next meeting will take place. All minds clear, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Have an amazing Tuesday.
Good job, Chairman.